Welcome to show 68 of the Cloth Diaper Podcast. Today's episode is with Pam, a cloth diaper mom from the Philippines. The Cloth Diaper Podcast is a somewhat regular show dedicated to sharing stories of cloth diapering from parents, brands, and retailers around the world. My name is Bailey. I'm the host of the Cloth Diaper Podcast. I am the author of Cloth Diapers, Textiles, Washing, and More, which just has been recently republished in color and now available around the world on Amazon and through global booksellers. I am so excited. That is awesome. Fantastic news. And I'm also the mom of two, a longtime cloth diapering advocate and educator. And we just finished the Flats and Hand Washing Challenge this last week. So I'm finally getting around to publishing some great content. I know there was a little bit of a 6-week hiatus that was unscheduled and unplanned. It just kind of happens sometimes when you are a small indie podcast without a publishing studio or a support team or annual income, that you just fall behind, and that happens. So hopefully we can do a little bit of a catch up. I have a big series here dedicated to the Flats and Hand Washing Challenge, starting off with this and then continuing on with some stories around diaper banks with interviews with Jake's Diapers, Salem Cloth Project, and Milwaukee Diaper Mission. These are going to be some great cornerstone pieces to this entire show that hopefully bring you some inspiration or passion, or finding a way that we as the cloth diaper community can kind of grow and get bigger as needed. Anyways, today's episode of the Cloth Diaper Podcast is brought to you by Vida Mia Cloth. That's right, sometimes the Cloth Diaper Podcast runs small advertisements for cloth diaper brands. Vida Mia Cloth is a Latina-owned cloth diapering business ran out of home by stay-at-home mom Crystal. Our goal is to show families that using cloth isn't scary, it can be fun and simple, and the impact that it makes on our earth is something parents should pride themselves in. We welcome you to visit www.vidamiacloth.online and join our Instagram and Facebook group, Vida Mia Cloth, to learn more. Thank you to Vida Mia Cloth for supporting the Cloth Diaper Podcast. I encourage you to check them out. I'll be sharing links in today's show notes and email so that you can learn more about this small Latina-owned cloth diapering business. Today's episode of the Cloth Diaper Podcast is with Pam. So Pam is a mom from the Philippines who reached out to me. Pam has been a longtime follower of the Cloth Diaper Podcast, and I am so thrilled that she's on the show because her story, much like Latifah's story out in the Maldives, or Malaysia, the Maldives. Latifah was from the Maldives, really kind of paints this picture of this international cloth diapering space. And I think I have a couple of themes in my life for 2021. The first being this theme of networking and reaching out and connecting with more cloth diaper businesses, cloth diaper banks, and cloth diaper people. And the second is this sort of international community that is out there, with Rami on board as my social media assistant and more cloth diaper parents reaching out to me from around the world. We're really beginning to see this really large international community of parents coming together for a variety of different reasons. And the cloth diaper story that we experience here in North America is kind of different, and there's some unique challenges to this international space and the struggle that parents have, affordability, wash routines, and I think this is a great opportunity for the cloth diaper community to really grow as a body of people who recognizes that the human experience with cloth diapering really is going to be vastly different and is going to impact people in different ways. So without further ado, I'm going to stop rambling and let's listen to this show with Pam. Sometimes when I have international guests, the audio quality kind of can stumble, so I hope that it is okay, but just a fair warning that something about connecting with families around the world can be a little bit hard, even in this day and age, on making sure that you get better audio quality, and that's a whole wide thing. Anyways, let's go. Today, I've got Pam is joining me, and Pam, do you think you could give yourself a little introduction? Who are you, and where are you joining me in the world?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Bailey. I'm a longtime listener, so talking with you today is like a dream come true. I'm Paviliar. I'm a mother of Likha. Likha is to create in Tagalog. He's almost 2. Our our small family of 3 is born and raised in Manila in the Philippines. I am a social development worker here by trade, and since becoming a parent, I've identified strongly as a Filipino cloth diaper community advocate and a mindful parenting advocate too.
Okay, so with a background in social work, that these things would come pretty naturally to you. Cloth diaper
Yeah, exactly.
is such a social community kind of space, and parenting in general, really.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So if throw 2 years ago, I guess, or almost 3 years when you were pregnant with your son, right? What drew you to cloth diapering, and why did you consider cloth diapering?
Yeah, that's right. Well, the predominant reasons people choose cloth are, well, they choose laundry over landfill. Essentially, we're that way. Also, cloth diapers save you more money. Well, up to a point, of course, because overstashing or hoarding may also contribute to fabric waste of local brands, but more so generic brands made with cheap labor abroad and might defeat the purpose of saving. But that isn't to say having a large stash, a super large stash, is inherently wrong. Of course not. Because cloth diapers can be therapeutic for people. They were for me for sure. And it's better to be more mindful about spending really for cloth diapers. Well, personally, I've been striving to live a minimal to zero waste lifestyle since around 2016. That even before getting married or getting pregnant, and I've always wanted to hashtag support local. So finding an online community that lives out both those advocacies was natural. Surprising at first, honestly, because there were so many already using cloth diapers in 2019. A growing online community of over 50,000 people now, with around 200 local work-at-home mom or WAM brands who make diapers and kids apparel by hand, and other resellers. Yeah, and other resellers of PUL diapers. So that's wonderful. Yeah, it's a budding community. I'm so sorry. Yeah, that was my connection. I'm so sorry. It's good now. Should be all right now.
Your stash. So when you decided to cloth diaper your son, how did you build your stash, and where did you kind of go where you are today? Part of why we've got Pam on the phone today is because we're going to talk about flats. But did you always start with flats, or how did that kind of go?
Yeah, right. It was difficult at first because you have to do a lot of research to check what works best for you. We've been exclusively cloth diapering Likha since he was a newborn until now that he's a toddler. So the cover system is very versatile in that way. When we started out, a lot of the recommendations that came in was always cover types and flats for newborns because it's the most convenient way to address, how newborns poop and pee need diaper changes like at least 8 to 12 times a day. So the cover system really allowed for that kind of flexibility, and you'll be able to use them like one cover type like twice or thrice as long as it isn't peeped or pooed on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that. And also flats work well with covers because they dry just as easily, and they are you'll be able to use them like for a longer time. Like one layered flats are my personal favorite. Mm-hmm. So they're the ones that I use, for example, the organic bamboo cotton terry flats that we use, and also some super heavy organic cotton there. So there are a lot of variants, but the ones that we use, we've been able to use them since My son was a newborn up until now, so that's super helpful. We have a couple of pocket type and snap in hybrid fitteds, and a few PUL diapers too, but covers and flats are our absolute favorites. they're more affordable, they're more versatile, and they're definitely more easy care.
Yeah. So you were talking about terry, and I think since I wrote my email and and then just listening to you here, there's a few different types of terry on the market. When you're talking about a bamboo cotton terry, are you talking about like more of a thinner terry, or are you talking about like what I would know as like a towel, a thicker terry?
Right. Because there's so many different types of terry. I think the towel type is the most common, I think. So that's like terry cloth. That's when toweling a fabric woven, like terry is toweling essentially, or tiny or woven, or like a fabric woven with tiny protruding loops on one side, like similar to your regular bath towel, as you mentioned, and a smooth and flat surface on the other side. So all in all, it's designed to be both highly absorbent and soft to the touch. So they're efficient that way, and they're also safe to be directly in contact with baby's bum. So that's one thing. And then this isn't an exhaustive list by any means, but there are two main types, I think: cotton terry and French terry. And then there are like variants of those two. French terry has smaller loops than regular cotton terry. So cotton terry has bigger loops when you look into them. And French terry needs a bit more prepping to reach its full absorbency, but is very rewarding as a soaker once it does. So blended fabrics, say for example, like blended organic bamboo terry is my absolute favorite, and what I often recommend to people starting out, because it's got that, it doesn't take as long as French terry to prep, like to reach its full absorbency, but it also allows for that kind of efficiency. Like once you get it, it's usually already pre-activated, and you'll be able to use it right away without having to prep.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And I think the more you talk, the more I realize I know what you're talking about. And I will probably see about throwing some pictures. I know of some example products about terries. So in the Philippines, your cloth diapering in the Philippines is flats and covers then normal. Maybe we should even throw it back. Do people cloth diaper? Are you is this mainstream in the Philippines?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. Cloth diapering isn't quite mainstream yet in the Philippines. Disposables are still very much the norm. Okay. Much of the older generation, I think mostly boomers or some Gen X's, usually use traditional flats made out of canvas cloth or muslin cloth back in muslin cloth back in the day.
Not nearly as soft as terry.
Right, yeah, definitely not. Yeah. And but modern cloth diapers is, still quite specialized. Like is modern if you'd ask, like, is modern cloth diapering common here? Then yes, definitely more so than they were in around 2015, when it was a very niche part of parenting life. People barely knew about it then. Now the pandemic's brought like so much momentum with it, especially in terms of raising general public awareness and of growth in numbers of local WAM brands. So like the number of brand specific chatter groups skyrocketed within almost like 10, popping up every couple of weeks when lockdown was first implemented.
So a bustling little work at home seamstress market.
Yeah, exactly. So there were like a lot of work at home seamstresses who felt like they could make a name for themselves in the cloth diapering industry. So that was super interesting. Like a lot of brands just kept popping up sometime mid last year, and that was very overwhelming.
What kind of diapers are they making?
hybrid fitteds mostly. Some fitteds, some fitteds as well, but most of them are hybrid, are HFs, and covers and flats aren't as common, but definitely, definitely hybrid fitteds.
Interesting. It's interesting to hear you talk about rise in work at home mom cloth diapering. Hold on. I apparently have a child out of the bath. It's interesting to hear, just because I wouldn't say we've had that same experience in North America. So for there to be like a little boom in makers is kind of interesting. Is the Philippines, mind my ignorance, is the Philippines known for manufacturing? What's the Philippines like dominant industry?
We're a very service-oriented industry. So like having this boom in like manufacturing, even in a very small scale, like small businesses, it was still very interesting to witness, especially like it's still ongoing, of course, but like in a service-driven industry like the one in the like what we have in the Philippines, it's very challenging to meet the level of the service industry, for example, because a lot of the brands are still very small. So you have like multiple small brands in cloth diapering, for example, and even very small retailers of PUL brands from abroad. So there's a lot of competition, and then that breeds like sometimes it's unhealthy competition, but overall it's very interesting to find like what works for you.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear about the changes that are happening in your area. So my other question is for Philippine parents, or maybe for yourself and from your experience, what has been the biggest challenge for cloth diapering or around cloth diapering? Is it a challenge around washing, a challenge around affording, a challenge? What is something that you feel is maybe uniquely characteristic to your cloth diaper experience?
Right. I think this is a pretty universal experience, I think, for anybody who chooses to venture into cloth diapers, is what you mentioned. The three main challenges, I think, even in the Philippines, is first is price, and then the second is like access to information, and then the last challenge would definitely be committing to exerting that much effort to cloth diapers.
What's like the cost comparison for cloth diapers in the Philippines? I know like in North America, they really kind of vary drastically.
Right.
Is that a similar experience in the Philippines? Are they significantly more expensive than disposables, or are they just kind of on par?
Definitely a lot more expensive than disposables. Like you can get it. Well, if you compare them by piece, a disposable diaper would be like 3 pesos. That's around like not even $1. But a cloth diaper will cost at least 400 pesos. So that's around $8 or $9. So that kind of disparity in the price is very overwhelming, especially for low and middle income families who might not be able to afford cloth diapers as readily as people who have like a more flexible budget to work with. Yeah, and then the second,
so a cheap diaper in North America is about $8, $10, $12, which I would say like for like low income is really hard to obtain. But 400 pesos, is that significant? What is that experience for somebody?
Yeah, definitely. Because for 400 pesos, I think you'll be able to get like a decent amount of rice, like a kilo or more of rice, which people will opt to get as opposed to like a cloth diaper, which, and then it's what else can you buy? There's a lot of things that you can get, like food, like very simple, like vegetables, just like in general, it's affordable. It's a significant amount if you want to buy like 2 meals to prepare, like 2 or 3 meals for the family in a day. So that's sufficient. If you know how to budget properly, then like that's just enough to prepare like a very simple meal for the family. Okay. So like
an interesting thought that I've been trying to, I've been asking different people this kind of question, both like on and off the record, just because the North American cloth diaper market is a big price tag. And I wonder about how that can scale globally. And we have seen such a rise in the international cloth community over the past year or so. And I'm trying to figure out how to support the accessibility, the affordability of cloth diapering around the world, like when dealing with so many different economies of scale, right? With a value of products being worth different in the Philippines versus Canada or the United States. How do you scale a market that way? That's just kind of been like my curiosities and my wonderings about what's going on. I know I was asking Romy, my assistant, a few of these questions as well, as I pay her in Canadian dollars and she's in a Argentine peso. So
it's such an intriguing aspect of our community that the cloth community has definitely grown like the past year. I think one way that we can support is this is the social development worker in me talking. I think a lot of it will have to boil down to policy support and like having legal frameworks to support small businesses to be able to enable them to scale at a level that's more that can allow for more people to buy these diapers at a price that isn't so high. Because as you mentioned, even in North America, cloth diapers are almost a premium for some people. It also is here in the Philippines. Not a lot of people opt for cloth diapers, even if there are very affordable options, mainly because there isn't enough support for the small businesses to grow in that way and to scale. Because a lot of the WAM brands that I talked to you about earlier are still, even if they do want to grow their business, not a lot of people can. Like there are a very small number of WAM brands now who have grown like significantly and have been able to supply a lot of the demand in other regions here in the Philippines. But
because growing a business takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of training, it takes a lot of resources.
Yeah, exactly. So not many people are equipped with the knowledge that they would need to scale. So that's one challenge. I think that as much as successful as their small businesses are, they would need a lot of public support, and I would say like legal, like support from the legal landscape to be able to access more people, because not many are able to do that with the limited resources that they have.
That's a fantastic idea. I think of all the different ways that this question has gone in the past, and that's an answer I have yet to receive, Pam, but it's a fantastic one. Exactly. There's so many ways that our governments and policymakers around the world, not just even in the Philippines, Canada, the United States, the UK, can support small businesses. And small business owners are a great way to support the cloth diaper community, because they really get to have some great relationships with customers to convince and encourage them Yeah. I had a question about washing. It's not really on here, but because I kind of thought that maybe we would get to it naturally. Do you find that you have any specific challenges with washing cloth diapers? And is that why?
Oh, yeah. Well, personally for me, Bailey, it isn't too difficult. Like, I'm able to wash pretty well because we have access. Thankfully, we have pretty stable access to water. But say, for example, there are other families, whether they're in the city or if they're in more provincial areas of the Philippines, there's like a certain type of hard water, I think is what they call it, that makes it a little difficult to care for cloth diapers properly because it's the type of water that's not as filtered as water in the city. So that then makes it difficult for them to maintain their diapers.
That's
at
frustrating.
A level.
Hard water can be such a challenge, especially like, unfiltered water. I know of parents around me who have we call well water is what we call, and it's like hard, rocky,
right,
high in calcium, high in iron, kind of yucky water. It can make it such a challenge. Yeah,
exactly. That's I've heard a lot of stories from our local cloth diapering community where they have to wash their diapers several times, or they'd have to find a different source of water, so their diapers will still maintain like a quality that can still be sold after they no longer have use for them. So that's, I think, what's one of the biggest challenges in general is access to water. And then the other one, I think, another challenge besides washing is access to information. Like, not a lot of people in the Philippines have stable internet access. They don't have access.
Because we cut out it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, as we know. So yeah, it's.
I mean, that's life everywhere. Well, not everywhere, but I mean, cutting out happens to the best of us, is what I was trying to think. But yes, so stable internet access. But you're talking about you have a Facebook group of 50,000 in the Philippines, Pam. So you're finding small ways to kind of get around that information barrier, but I guess it's still a bit of a problem.
Yeah, but I think the difficulty lies in having to look for these groups. Like they aren't like widely known enough for people to know what to look for. Like, I think that's one thing to really overcome, because if you aren't really aware of it, you won't be able to know what to search for. So
that's true.
So even if we do have like 3 main cloth diapering groups, like these online community groups are like the ones that I mentioned, like Cloth Diaper Advocates Philippines and Cloth Nappies PH and Modern Cloth Nappying Pinays. They're groups that are very supportive and that provide a lot of resource. Like they are a great resource for information for parents who are starting out with cloth diapering. But yeah, it's you have to know where to look to be able to find them. And then after that, you also have to like sift through all of the information that you find in them.
So much.
Yeah, so much information. So like a lot of people who are curious, like who are cloth diaper curious, end up being very turned off by all the information, that they end up choosing the convenience of disposables over cloth diapers, because it just, it's a lot of effort. It's a lot of
it's a huge educational curve.
Yeah.
What's the language in the Philippines?
Mostly we have a lot. There are a lot of Filipino languages, but what a lot of people use are Tagalog and Bisaya, and it really depends on which region you're in, but Tagalog is widely spoken, and English.
That explains why I sit here and I was like, I don't know if I've ever heard of of a name for the language of the Philippines.
Yeah.
That would be why, because you're saying there's a lot. In my part of the world, we get a lot of Philippine foreign workers. So
Right.
I was like, but I don't think I've ever heard of a language. So I was trying to figure out that. Do you find that makes it a challenge with being so many different languages and dialects, or to also transfer the information, or is there just or not?
That's an interesting question. Well, thankfully,
or like in your Facebook group, do they just speak English? Or what? What is that discourse there?
Yeah. Most people in the online group speak Tagalog, so that works out just fine for everyone. Of course, there are other Filipino languages that people can use, but in terms of like the wider community and what language we speak, it's usually Tagalog or a mix of English and Tagalog, which we call Taglish. So that's also one way. So communicating the information isn't too difficult because we have a common language to speak with. I think it really is just the information overload that you have.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So much. Like, I tried to write a book about cloth diapering and I couldn't keep it under 200 pages. Like, there is so much information, and it's I know it's like something that I chat with brands about all the time. Like, how do you simplify it, and how do you really, like, the only answer I ever get out of people is like, just, you got to sit down with somebody in a pile of cloth diapers, and that really helps with get rid of the overwhelm, like seeing it and touching it instead of 30 pages of scrolling. But yeah, it's a lot to take in.
Yeah, I get you. It's when I started out too, like when you mentioned that, that it's difficult to condense all of that information, even in just like 200 pages. It's I remember just how many hours I took just researching and reading through all the previous posts in these groups, and like, what does that and then also thinking, what does that mean for me? Like, what information can I use for myself and for the new baby that I have, right? And it's so difficult to have to break everything down, especially when you're new to everything.
And you're already trying to figure out what pregnancy is doing and labor and what crib to buy, all the other dozen questions, let alone the diaper.
Exactly. So usually what more experienced members of the cloth diapering community recommend is they usually, well, everybody now follows like 1, 2, 3, like 3 general points, like 3 how do I
they have 3 general recommendations.
Like there are also, I got it. There are 3 general points to consider when choosing your cloth diaper, and most people say that's like your laundry schedule. So that's one. So that's avoiding unnecessary spending or overstashing. But yeah, it's if you laundry like every 2 or 3 days, then your stash will depend on the number of days, and that's like the number of diapers you use per day, and then the number of days times the number of days it takes before you laundry, like before your next laundry day. And also say what pattern fits your baby the best and at which stages of growth that applies to. And the third would be like which soakers or inserts will suit their output the best, because sometimes like this type of cotton terry that's this specific size might not be the best for like a 3-month-old, but it might be okay for when they're like a day old or something. Or sometimes these single layered flats that, say for example, if it was bamboo French cotton terry or something, then it would, and then if it was large, right, if it was a large flat, then it can be used from newborn up until they're in their potty training stages. But that again really depends on like how you fold them and how you care for them. So it's a lot of things to consider, but like once you know your laundry schedule, like what pattern fits for your baby, and also what soakers or what blend of these inserts will work the best for your baby, then it's a little less difficult from there.
It's like those are still three very big questions that can be daunting, but you're working your way through there.
Yeah, definitely.
But you find that trying to get new parents to answer or explore those three key ideas has helped in your cloth diaper community reduce that overwhelm.
Yeah, for sure. I think providing new parents or caregivers, or like people new to cloth diaper in general, like with personalized support, is the most important and most valuable resource we can provide as a community. Like finding your permanent stash or your perma stash is tough, and it can be very costly if done without research into brands and without knowing the reviews. And if you have like this mindset, like to try a little bit of everything, then that will pose a challenge, because I think the best thing to do is to try a lot of only the best things. And even the best things will vary per family, because like what is best for one person might not be really good for the other. So then that's difficult. Like you have to find what works for you, even if it might not work for other people.
Mm-hmm. It is like a rabbit hole of information.
Yeah, definitely.
But you are a cloth diaper influencer in the Philippines. We've kind of brought that around. Where can people find you? You had a great Facebook page with some fantastic videos and information about flats, about Terry's. What's that account name and that people can check out?
Oh, yeah. Thanks for asking. People can, besides the online community groups that I mentioned earlier, you can also find me on Facebook and Instagram at Pamana Mama. So that's PAMANA MAMA.
It makes sense now.
Yeah.
I was looking at it and I was like, oh, this is an interesting name. But it's your first name. It's okay.
Oh, well, that's interesting. Yeah, that's a coincidence, because Pamana is heritage or legacy in Tagalog. So it's so it's perfect to describe like the kind of legacy we want to leave our children, like a community that's striving to save the earth and raise better and kinder kids, one cloth diaper and one act of kindness at a time. So yeah, that's why.
So what are your big goals? Like, you sound like you are like you've got like a goal that you want to accomplish with your role as a cloth diaper educator. Do you have like a big milestone moment that you're kind of looking or working towards right now and supporting cloth diapering in the Philippines?
Well, definitely the biggest goal is, as we talked about earlier in the episode, is be able to find like that legal support, like finding that policy framework that will enable more small local businesses to be supported in ways that they need to be supported. Mm-hmm. So that's definitely the goal. Gotcha. But in a smaller, more micro scale, I think
is that your I was going to say, is that your social work background coming into play? It sounds like it. Is. Yeah.
I think providing that personalized support and finding your perma stash, like per family, is something that I really enjoy doing. Like when people message me on my personal Facebook account or like through the Pamana page, they always ask me, what are your recommendations? What is best for my baby? And I'm sure a lot of people in the community also get those questions. But it's I always get so energized like reading them. Like I always feel like, I'm so happy to be here for you and to help you with your journey. So that's definitely the development work for me.
I love that, because have gotten a little bit burned out on answering all those questions all the time. So it's so wonderful to hear that there's other people stepping into those shoes and supporting parents around the world to find the right diaper for them. It's such important work to be able to work with parents one-on-one and be a safe space for people to come reach out to you in that way.
Yeah, definitely. I understand that one-on-one chats and conversations can be super draining at certain points, especially when you have like so many people asking you the same exact questions. But like once you get into their story and how they got into cloth diapering, again, the social development worker in me talking, it's always it puts everything into perspective. Like when they say, oh, this is my family background, this is what I've been struggling with as a parent, sometimes even struggling as a mom, right? Because there's so many things to navigate through as a new parent, or even as like a mom in general, or a parent in general, caregiver in general. So it's when they, besides talking about cloth diapering, they also talk to me about their own struggles in life and how that factors into how they're dealing with their baby, and also how they're cloth diapering. So that's always a joy.
I think like that is something I feel that I've really tried to also encourage, is that that cloth conversation about what diaper is best for me is not just, I can't just spit out an answer. It really is learning about what's going on in that person's life, to find the best recommendation so that you give an answer that makes them feel empowered to continue parenting and continue cloth diapering in the best way that they can. So I love hearing that from you. That makes me so excited. And I have a few more shows kind of lining up along this too. And I just chatted with another mama, and we're going to talk about, she designed a cloth diaper course that she works with her doula in, and she delivers locally. Like there's so many spaces here for micro influencing within your specific community or within your country, to reach out to people in this amazing one-to-one scale and convince them to cloth diaper.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a wonderful idea. I'd love to hear more about the course that you have.
Well, you'll listen to it whenever I get it edited, but it's just, there's that's kind of feeling like a theme. Sometimes I record a whole bunch of podcasts and like a little bit of a theme comes up, and I feel like this theme that's kind of popping up is really this one-to-one, and then that the best way to make one-to-one happen is by expanding. It can't just be Pam in the Philippines and Bailey in Canada. It has to be Pam and a whole bunch of other leaders in the Philippines, right? And in order to really make that impact. So, but you're leaving a positive impact as you're encouraging other leaders. Then that's what it sounds like that you're doing in your cloth diaper community. So,
thanks so much, Bailey.
What's it sounded like? You were talking about how you're having a chat with them, and it sounds like you're being an inspiration. But maybe that's my perceived, email chat.
Thanks, Bailey. There are a lot of I think everybody's an influencer in their own way. It's just a matter of magnitude. And I think it really, I'm just really thankful to be part of a community that is super involved with these things, and they really want to help each other. Everybody just wants to help each other one-on-one, and that's super inspiring, because even if people constantly ask like the same questions every time, there's always one, sometimes even 5, up to like 10 or more people to answer the question. And then they just share their experience, like, hey, this is what worked for me. Maybe you could consider it because you sound like you're in the same situation. So it's really inspiring to see just how willing people are to help each other out with these things. And I'm really hoping that in the future that will lead to more dedicated policy advocacy efforts to make sure that these changes are felt long term.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you, not knowing anything about Filipino politics, is that a potential? Like, do you feel like it could happen, or does it feel far-fetched.
Well, honestly, it feels a little far-fetched now, but I'm really hoping that like with more research and like finding which communities or which nonprofits are already working on supporting small businesses, I think that's a good entry point to involve cloth diapers in. And also, say, for example, there have been recent laws enacted in local governments as well. There hasn't been a national law yet, but in some local governments, single-use plastic has already been banned. So, like, having people advocate for that, but on the level of family households, for example, that's one way to encourage at least small scale local support in that way, to find your local government and to encourage them to not only ban single-use plastics but also include disposable diapers in that category, so it isn't, so you also target the industry in that way. Hopefully not to make them too angry, but like just to encourage more people to switch to cloth because of how of how difficult things can be otherwise.
Have you looked into the UK Nappy Network as a framework or a similar idea?
Oh, I haven't yet. I will do that.
That would be my recommendation for you. I just talked with Baba. Baba and Boo was my most recent episode, and she was talking about the UK Nappy Network, and they've done a lot of the bringing together of the cloth diaper community to do lobby and make some leadways in the UK and that area. So that might be an organization for you to reach out to and learn and see if they have any advice for what you could model in the Philippines.
Yeah, that's amazing advice. Thanks, Bailey. I'll check that out. I was able to listen to that episode, but I haven't been able to contact the people there. So I'll try to do that. Thanks, Ethan.
Well, Charlie Banana, I chatted with her recently as well, and she had a positive experience with the UK Nappy Network for lobbying of cloth diapers, just because that similar cohesive social policy collective is not something that they're experiencing in North America, but maybe we'll come here too. But there's definitely, hopefully there's, what am I trying to stumble over? Collaboration. There's room for collaboration to really make some powerful impact in policy. It's better when we come together too for it. Like if we can all be on the same team when we're lobbying government to support us.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah. All right. Well, we have kind of tangented. Wow, but I hear that I'm needed for bedtime, so I am going to part you adieu. I know we've shared your Facebook page, and I would love to catch up in a year or so, Pam, too. Like, don't be a stranger. I am so fascinated about what's going on in the Philippines for cloth diapering. There's that whole time.
Pam and I had set out to talk about flat cloth diapering, and make this an episode that we would launch for the Flats and Hand Washing Challenge. But as I listened to it again, I remember that our conversation was so much more about other things, about the cloth diaper community, about the important work that the international cloth diaper community is doing, and that we kind of all have the same goals, the same challenges, and I think there's so much potential here for us to come together and work together and try to achieve this wonderful greatness. I know this episode was a little bit less about flats and a little bit more about that international or that one-on-one or how to support cloth diaper communities, but I hope that you learned a few things, you have a few great takeaways, and you enjoyed this show. I know that international guests can be hard shows to listen to because the audio quality is a little bit less than awesome. I try my best, but I am just a rookie cloth diaper podcaster. I will put the show notes for this episode over at clothdiaperpodcast.com/show-68. I don't have them transcribed right now, but I am going to put them through a system and I will get some sort of transcription up and going. So at least you have some general idea about what's going on for this show. If you want to be on the Cloth Diaper Podcast, I am always accepting guests. You can email me at Bailey at clothdiaperpodcast.com, and I will be scheduling and recording this summer for fall 2021 content. If you want to help or support the Cloth Diaper Podcast show, you can also email or DM me. I am slow on my emails, but I do get back to my DMs occasionally. Thank you so much for listening to the Cloth Diaper Podcast, and until next week.